Kajabi is my platform of choice to run all my webinars, both live and auto webinars. And what I want to do in today's video is walk you through a framework to create as profitable of a webinar as possible. I want to teach you how I do six-figure webinars and webinar launches and promotions and how you can do the same and show you how to build them inside of Kajabi. If you haven't already signed up for Kajabi, consider using my affiliate link below this video to get an extended free trial instead of the 14 days. I can get you a 30-day free trial. And on top of that, the moment you sign up for Kajabi using my link, it's free. You're also going to get a mini course delivered to you right away called Ready, Set, Kajabi that I created, walking you through how to make money on Kajabi during those 30 days, including some of my favorite secret ninja marketing tactics that Kajabi can allow you to do. And then if you become a paying member of Kajabi after the free trial, you're like, hey, this is for me. Hey, that's awesome. Part of your monthly payment will actually come back to support me and this channel by using my link at no cost to you, which is awesome. So as my way of saying thank you, I'm going to give you another course, my 3-step sales copy formula mini course to help you sell anything to anyone, which will help you with your webinars. So it's all there at grahamcochran.com/Kajabi. Let's dive in to thinking about webinars. I'm going to show you it in Kajabi in 1 second, but I want to cover some concepts here real quick. Number one, by live webinar, I mean you are streaming. Think of it as a live stream, which we're a lot more used to these days with Facebook Live and going live on Instagram and a lot of other platforms, YouTube Live. So you're teaching live. Here's the deal. There's a couple of components to a webinar and a couple of reasons why you would use a webinar. What's the power of a webinar? Why use one? Number one, it's a great way to connect with your audience. It's a great way to build rapport and trust because you're there live instead of even this video right now is asynchronous. It's not live. So you're watching this that I've recorded for you ahead of time. And while we can have a moment, because I know you're watching and you know I'm talking to you, it's still not happening live. There is nothing like a live event. You cannot replace it. So there's power and intimacy and rapport and trust that's built when it's live. There's excitement because it's a live event. Number two, because of that connection and rapport and intimacy and power and energy, a webinar is a great tool to sell more expensive products. So if you're trying to sell anything that's over $500, a live webinar is a great tool. It becomes harder, not impossible, but harder to sell $500 plus products or offers on a simple sales page through some emails. Not impossible, but harder. So having that connection on a live webinar is a great way to sell those high ticket products because number three, you can coach them live and ask and answer questions live that you just can't on a sales page. So super, super powerful. And then I think the fourth reason is it's easier to invite people to a free webinar than it is to sell them something. So you're going to get a bigger pool of people one step closer to your offer. And that might lead to more sales. That's the why for a webinar for you. I think it's going to help you sell more product, especially expensive products. The what makes a webinar reach 6 figures? One variable that we have to just throw out because I can't control that for you is the size of your audience. So I'm going to be honest with you. If you have a very small audience, it's going to be almost impossible to do a 6-figure webinar launch because a lot of what makes those numbers pop is the number of people that can come to your webinar. I'm not saying it's impossible, and it really depends on the price point of what you're selling, but I don't want to lead you astray. The biggest variable is the number of people that you are going to invite to your webinar. So that aside, how to make a webinar successful, there's a couple components. Number one, the webinar has to be valuable in and of itself. Can we talk about for a second this trend that's been going on for a long time now where the webinar is nothing more than a giant sales pitch? Meaning it's not even a training. It's like the first 30 to 40 minutes of the webinar are a long setup to buy your thing. It's showing people that they need your thing, and then you present the thing that you're selling. Now, is selling on a webinar wrong? No, that's the point of a webinar, in my opinion. But what's wrong and disingenuous and what's allowed sort of our industry and webinars to have a bad taste in people's mouths is the fact that it's a giant sales pitch with no value. So people who don't buy the thing come and like, well, what was the point of me spending my time? To waste somebody's time is just as rude and damaging as to waste somebody's money, if not more, because they can always get more money. They can't get back that time. So respecting people's time is paramount. So the webinar in and of itself has to be valuable. Number one, we'll talk about that in a second. Number two, it has to then transition beautifully into a pitch for a product. So before you talk about the webinar, let me ask you this. What are you trying to sell? Is it a course? Is it a group coaching program? Is it one-on-one coaching spots? Is it a mastermind that you're trying to fill? What is it? That's the most important thing you have to start with, because whatever it is you're trying to sell on the back end of the webinar is going to dictate what you talk about in the webinar. Okay? So if you have the idea of your course or what the course promises or the product promises, what would be an entry point for people that's relevant to what you're going to sell that you could teach on or talk about in the webinar? Because ideally, the webinar title, promise, topic in and of itself is juicy and valuable. And then at the end, it's still going to leave them wanting more if it's super good. And so the people that are like warmed up and like, this is for me, they're going to want to go deeper with the course or the product. So the product has to be super tied to what you teach in the webinar, but never start with the webinar. Always start with the back end offer, and that will tell you what the webinar should be. So I'll give you an example. I have a webinar that I do for my six-figure coaching community, which is my membership site where I help online business owners like you grow your business to 6 figures a year or more. Okay. So the product that I'm going to pitch at the end of that is Graham's six-figure coaching community. So what I do is I teach a webinar called The 3 Secrets to Earning 6 Figures. See the direct connection? I'm teaching you how to grow to a 6-figure business, and then my membership helps you do that. So what I do is I pull out some of the good stuff that I teach in my membership and that webinar, and I walk through the 3 secrets and teach them in depth, right? 2 are a little bit more conceptual and math oriented to give people ideas. 1 is a very like hard teaching tactic that you could actually run with and make a ton of money with. But either way, all 3 stack up, and you could take that information and go scale your business to 6 figures. But by the end of it, if you're loving that, oh, you're going to want to join my community because it's super dope, and I'm going to do a good job of selling it to you. So you can see the connection, right? I have an auto webinar that I originally taught live years ago. The webinar is meant to sell my Radio Ready system, which is a bundle of courses that help you as a musician for my other brand record music that sounds like it's so good it should be on the radio. And so the webinar content was 5 hacks to creating radio-ready songs. So people that want to create songs that sound more professional, that sound radio-ready, which is a term that I just coined to make it simple, a simple way of saying professional sounding. In the webinar, I teach 5 tricks, 5 hacks to make your music sound better. So they're going to get a ton of value. And at the end of that, I'm like, oh, by the way, I have this entire system that's everything I've ever taught on this subject bundled together at like 70% off. And it's an insane bundle. And here's some of the amazing testimonials my students have gotten. So you're like, oh, I got to have that. So the fear I see is that people are afraid to teach good stuff in the webinar because then they're afraid that no one's going to want to buy the thing. And that is backwards thinking. That's fear-driven, scarcity mindset thinking. You have to have the opposite. Abundance mindset, others focus, generosity thinking says, no, 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 no. Let's make a webinar. Let's craft a 30 to 45 minute training with slides, whatever, hard teaching that is so valuable that actually brings some of your best material so that 2 things can happen. You're going to have 2 groups of people that come to your webinar. One is going to come, they're not going to buy your thing. Either they're like anti-buying anything on a webinar, or they get to the end of the webinar, they hear the pitch and they're like, that's not for me. They're going to walk away not buying a thing, but they're going to walk away saying that was worth my time. I learned something really helpful. I'm walking away with at least 1 game-changing nugget that I'm going to go implement, right? So that's going to be 1 group of people, and they're going to thank you. They're going to feel like this is worth my time. And the other group of people are going to get so much value out of the webinar that by the time you pitch the thing, they're going to have the thing, and they're going to buy the thing. Either way, you win because you served both group of people. And that's how you know you're running a good webinar. So the webinar has to be didactic, meaning it has to actually have teaching. It needs to deliver on its promise, and it needs to be engaging. So I usually teach this in depth. I have an entire training on this that's paid. I don't have time to go there because it takes about an hour to walk you through my formula. I have like a 6-step webinar formula. But let me give you the cliff notes of it, and then I'm going to show you how to build this in Kajabi real quick. Number one, have a killer promise. The title of your webinar needs to be a promise. So like my 5 hacks to a radio-ready song, 3 secrets to earning 6 figures. It doesn't have to be super creative. Those aren't very creative names, but they're a promise that's bold. And then you're going to invite people to this live event. You tell them that it's free. You tell them you're going to teach for about an hour. You tell them they're going to walk away with this. They have to know why they should come, what's in it for them, what they're going to walk away with being able to implement. And you can feel confident if you've really built a real training. This is not a giant sales pitch. It's a real training. So invite them to it, have a bold promise. What are they going to walk away with? And then about a week before the live training, start promoting it to your email list and to your audience to invite them to this live training. They have to register. And that's going to give them a chance to get excited about this live training. Then you go live and teach it. You also need to have some sales copy mapped out, some slides where you transition from the teaching to the pitch. Simple way to transition is ask them, has this been valuable? Oh yeah, this has been great. Have you guys been learning some stuff in this training? Yes, this is so great. I have something really, really cool that I think will help you take this to the next level. Is it okay if I share that with you now? It's permission-based marketing. Would it be okay if I share that with you now? Oh yes, that would be okay. And then you transition to the sales pitch. Okay, and you pitch. So just ask permission. Another way to keep them on the pitch before people leave, because you're afraid people are going to leave your pitch, is to give them a gift and promise them a gift. Look, if you stick around to the end, say this at the beginning of the webinar too, and then say this right before you go into the pitch. If you stick around to the end of this training, 2 things are going to happen. One, I'm going to do live Q&A coaching sessions so you can ask me any questions you want, so stick around for the questions. And 2, I'm going to be giving you a gift and you tell them what that gift is. Think of it as another lead magnet, some downloadable. Sometimes I just give away the slides. Like if you stick around to the end, I'm going to give you the downloadable slides so you have all the notes. That works too. Gives them an incentive to stick around through the sales pitch. Live Q&A at the end and a gift at the end if you stick around. And you do the whole pitch, and then when you get to the very final slide where they have everything and the call to action and the price and all the stuff they can go buy it, then you can put a URL at the top where they can go download the gift or the bonus, and then you can open it up for questions. And then stick around and do Q&A at the end. So you've done the training for 30 to 45 minutes. You've done a pitch for about 20 minutes, and then you do Q&A for 20, 30, 40 minutes as long as you want to go live. That's the most perfect format to launching a live webinar. And then the follow-up is just as important. Treat it as a real launch. You need a scarcity element, an urgency element. There has to be a time frame for them to buy this thing where it's going to go away, or the price is going to go up, or the bonuses are going to go away. And you'd have all your follow-up emails mapped out in Kajabi to hit them a lot, remind them a lot, get excited, pull out the benefits a lot. So, so important. And a little bonus, especially if you're in Kajabi, is make sure you have upsells and order bumps ready to go so that you can maximize your revenue at the point of purchase. Okay. That's like a lot of secrets in a nutshell for webinars. Here's how to do it inside of Kajabi. So if you're in your back end, there's a couple ways to do webinars. Go to the marketing tab and then go to pipelines, because we're going to create a new pipeline. So under new pipeline, there's a lot of options. There's a Zoom webinar, which is great if you're going to use Zoom. And I love Zoom as a platform, but I much prefer the Zoom webinar platform, which is paid and it's expensive. It's about $150 to have about 500 people max that can attend to a Zoom webinar. Otherwise, it's going to be a Zoom meeting and you're going to see everybody's screen and it's a pain in the butt. So unless you pay for a Zoom webinar, I'm not a fan of that pipeline. I'm much more a fan of the legacy pipelines, which is this little button down here. And then you want to go to webinar. And what it's going to build you is a registration page to capture the email address, a thank you page, the live webinar room, which I'm going to show you how to do this with YouTube. It's free. It'll build you a sales page, or you don't have to use our sales page if you already have a product with a sales page, and a checkout. So you can delete these two if you don't want to, but it's going to build the sign up page, the thank you page, and the live webinar page, right? So let's create this pipeline. Let's give it a name. Call it Graham's Awesome Webinar. And they're going to give you 2 webinar types, pre-recorded or live. We're going to do live because you can do this live. And you can do this with YouTube. All you need is a YouTube account. You're going to give it a date and time in the future. And then you could choose the offer you want to sell and attach it to. If you don't want to do that, you can do that later. So let's just generate the pipeline. So once the pipeline's built, you can see what it built for me. It built me a registration page, which looks like this. Right? You have the promise. This is where you're going to type in the promise of your webinar. The time, the date and time is going to be tied to the event you set up. It's going to be a button to reserve my spot. You're just going to pull like, here are the 3 things you're going to learn. Here's the 3 takeaways you're going to have or whatever. So give them, these are basically fascination bullets, like benefit bullets. What are the benefits to them? A little more detail about you or about the webinar and a call to action, right? So this is a simple landing page. You can change all of this, but this is what you're going to send people to and link to. Hey, come check it out next week. Come tomorrow, come tonight. Like you're going to have to do lots of follow-up emails to get people to come. It's free. It's going to be amazing. You're going to learn this, right? So that's the registration page. We go back to the outline overview. There's going to be a thank you page, confirmation page. And then this can either be just like, hey, check your inbox for details on how to come to the live training. Sometimes you can put a video here if you want to give them some instructions. There's a lot of options depending on how you're going to use the webinar, but a straight up webinar, it's just like, hey, check your inbox for the link. Thank you so much. It can just be a picture. And then you're going to see, we'll get to the webinar room in a minute, but you're going to see there's going to be an event tied to this, right? So we had our event, I just picked the date and time, and then they create email setup. So for people who register, they're going to auto get a, hey, congrats, you're registered email, which looks like this. It's going to auto populate the countdown timer or the event. It's going to calculate those, create the link for you, but you're going to want to change like the bullets, right? Where you're going to learn, you don't want to have, this is from the Kajabi team, but this is just the email pre-populated. And then an hour before, 15 minutes before, and then a day after, this is like a sales pitch email. You can add emails to be before the event. You can add emails to be after the event, like the sales emails can be after the event, which is fine too. Or you can just keep it the way it is and do the sales promo emails in the email marketing section and just email people who register to the event. Or you can put them all here if you want. So it's going to be automatically only going out to people who registered. But for reasons we can't run into today, you may want to do the email separately if you want to like do a straight up launch for people who came to the webinar and people who didn't, and you can split it out that way. So this is really easy. These are the emails that you can tweak. And then the webinar room is where the magic happens. So this is what they're going to be taken to once they're registered, and nothing's going to be there yet, but there's a YouTube Live section. And what you're going to want to do is go create a YouTube Live video inside of your YouTube account, or if you use a tool called StreamYard, which I highly recommend. It's a great way to do live streams if you want to share your screen, if you want to do cool things, call up people's comments. I love this program, and it's free. It's free to use. They're going to put a watermark on it, but you could totally do your webinar with this absolutely free, and it connects with your YouTube Live account. So you'd sync it up to your YouTube account. You'd create or schedule the live session in StreamYard first. It'll create an unlisted YouTube Live event inside of YouTube, and then all you're going to do is copy and paste that link and that video ID and paste it here so that then your YouTube Live will be embedded in this webinar room. So basically all you're creating is a YouTube Live, but it's embedded, including the chat, into this private Kajabi webinar. So the only people that can watch it are people that have registered for your webinar, and you can do it all inside of Kajabi. And then you can create a lot of different things. You can have a countdown timer. You can have a buy now button right below it. So it allows it to be a really integrated sales experience for your webinar. The great thing about YouTube Live as a webinar tool in conjunction with StreamYard and Kajabi is that it's all free. That you can have over or up to 2,000 people attending, which is insane. So I actually pay for Zoom Webinar to do a lot of my coaching calls for my membership. But if I expect more than 500 people to attend, I can't even use Zoom Webinar unless I upgrade even more. And I already pay $150 a month for that. So YouTube Live allows me to have up to 2,000 people or more live. The chat function is amazing. And in conjunction with StreamYard, I can see their chat and I can click on it, like, and their comments pop up on the screen. It's great for Q&A. It integrates beautifully, allows me to share my slides that I've built either in Google Slides or Canva or Keynote on Apple. And then it all can integrate inside of Kajabi, so I can build a simple registration page. I can have emails that follow up, and I can have all my sales emails go out all inside of Kajabi, and it knows who's registered and who hasn't. One question I get is related to the replay. Should I offer a replay? The answer is yes, to everyone who registers. Get people to register, get people to take that action. And then what I do is after the webinar is over, the next day, I embed the recording of the webinar, the replay of the webinar at the top of the sales page of the product I want to sell. So when I send people to the replay, I'm basically sending them to the sales page and they can watch the replay, and I tell them that the replay and the offer below it are expiring shortly and they only have a few days to catch the replay or even to join us on the offer, whatever that offer is, opening and closing a product, discount, whatever it is. And that's a great way to offer the replay to people that registered, and the people that don't, then when you do your launch, you just send them straight to the sales page. But this is how you leverage the power of a live webinar with the power of Kajabi and automation and follow-up, right? Have a killer promise in the webinar, have a killer content piece, like we were actually teaching didactically for 30 to 45 minutes, permission-based marketing to transition to the pitch, offer a Q&A and a gift at the end of the webinar to incentivize people to stay to the end of the pitch, and then do it all inside of Kajabi for a seamless experience using the legacy webinar pipeline in Kajabi. Hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any specific webinar questions in the comments below. And let me know if you do webinars inside of Kajabi and what has been your experience, good or bad. I'm happy to dive in. I've done a ton of webinars on the platform, so I think I can relate to any of the challenges. And also, if you're stuck, I can help you in it with any of those things as well. And like I said at the top of the video, if you haven't tried out Kajabi yet and you want access to all of these powerful tools, webinars and stuff like that, consider signing up with my free trial link below to get you an extended 30-day free trial, up to 2 free mini courses, and my endearing love for all eternity. It costs you nothing. It is an affiliate link, however, which means part of your future payment to Kajabi will come back to support this channel, but at no cost to you. So it's a win-win-win all around. Everything is there below in the video description or at grahamcochran.com/Kajabi. All right, friend, have an amazing rest of your day. Good luck building out your next webinar, and I'll see you on another Kajabi tutorial in the future.